Well, it's quite obvious, Roberto. If you go back to this game, our start was horrific. Within, I think, 58, 59 seconds, we concede a goal, making it possible for a team like Minnesota to even strengthen their way they want to play. And they're really good at it as well. So conceding as early as we did, 2 goals, the way we did, doesn't help. And it was a moment where I look back that the team needed our help from the side in order to change things. And we didn't wait until halftime or 60 minutes to do so. Once we did make the changes, you see the dynamics in the game change. We knew from the get-go it was going to be a tough game to create as many chances as we would like to, given the fact that they have their strategy and good players and can play the way they did. But we did have a few moments in order to turn the game around in an earlier stage. Missing the penalty is a huge moment, especially against a team like Minnesota with that kind of strategy. So looking at the second half, we created a few moments. We missed a few big opportunities to get us back into the game. But eventually we had to suffer from the start that we had in that game. And that is something that we have to make sure that we do better the next time.
The next time being Philadelphia on Saturday. It's hard to use the last time that you guys played because they're a very different team, right? And obviously New York City is different as well. What can you bring into that game as a lesson that is going to hopefully help the team get over the hump?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and that's something we addressed also together as a group, because the way we started this game against Minnesota, coming out of the game in Atlanta, we expected something completely different than we showed. So for us, the first 15 to 20 minutes will be a huge turning point going into this game, making sure that we match up the intensity that we expect from Philly, because they play with a lot of energy, high intensity. So the quality on the ball has to be really, really good in order to play away from their pressure and make sure you have a huge part in the game from the start. But make no mistake, I think there will be a completely different type of game on Saturday if you take in consideration the approach of the opponent in this game. So we have to match up that intensity at least, do the same, and try to add a few things that we get on top of this game from the start.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Onto the Zoom, we'll go with Alex.
Hi, Pascal. This is Alex Winley from AM New York. How's it going?
Hi, Alex.
Hi. In the Minnesota match, the team controlled most of the possession. How does your side build on that control to create more consistent attacking threats this weekend against Philadelphia? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a huge part is that we're trying to control every game. However, Minnesota game is also a different type of game because this opponent doesn't really need the ball. They don't want to have it as much as you would expect. So that plays a huge part in why we had so much control. But like I told your colleague just now, there were a few big moments that we have to open up the game in order to get back into the game. But conceding the way we did doesn't help because it brings them in a good spot. So for us, apart from this game, it's still a challenge to have as much possession as we can so we can control it, but also create bigger and better chances from this type of control.
George?
Coach, with things not really going as well as I think they should be, how's the morale of the team right now, making sure that everybody's still, sticking with each other and not really getting on each other? Granted, we had that little tiff with Matt last week, 2 weeks ago. But, how's everybody still going on right now?
Well, that's something that you should come and see in training during the week because that moment between Thiago and Matt Freese is something that is capable within games of an emotional sport like football is. So we dealt with it and we moved on. And I haven't seen any change in behavior in general. The intensity and the quality of the training sessions are very high. The respect amongst the players is very high. But those are the things we already created throughout the preseason. So we're not worried about that. We're just worried about the fact that we need to improve our game, considering how the last 2 games have been played, taking in consideration also that the 60 minutes before going or allowing Atlanta to get back into the game were from a good level. So that is something that is part of the process, I would say, but without making the process bigger than it is, because it's something that we're trying to improve as soon as we can.
Michael Allen.
Hi, Coach. Michael Allen from Pro Soccer.
Hi, Michael.
I just wanted to speak about the atmosphere in the Sunday game against Minnesota. Was pretty low, partly because of the early goal, but also because of the sanctions imposed on the supporters section. Mm-hmm. As you go into your second home field here in Queens, how important is it to have a really rowdy, raucous atmosphere from the fans to supply urgency to the team? Yeah,
that's a good question. As you know, we are one with the fans and they are one with us. So it doesn't help when they can't support us the way they can. On the other hand, we have said to each other from day one, it doesn't matter what type of circumstances we have to play. We have to perform in any type of game, fans or no fans. And the context was there on Sunday, but it doesn't give any excuse to start the game like we did on Sunday. And that is something that we have to take in account for ourselves and make sure that doesn't happen with either 1 or 10,000 fans in the stand.
Scott?
Hey, Coach, how are you? Scott Schertz with Stream Punk Soccer.
Hi, Scott. Hi.
Union actually set the MLS world on fire a little bit yesterday with the decision to trade Gazdock over to Columbus. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on any adjustments that you guys had when that news broke, or was it still business as usual? Thanks.
Yeah, well, it's a bigger issue in Philly, I'm assuming. It's a good player for their squad, very important player with a lot of impact. But it shows that the MLS is still developing, and good players get the opportunity like this in order to make a transfer and go to another club and proceed in their careers. For us, however, it was business as usual, preparing ourselves the best way we can going into this game. And only taking in account that this is one of the players that might not be on the pitch on Saturday.
Michael?
Pascal, it's Mike Andrew from Blue City Radio. Thanks for the time.
Hi, Michael.
One of the keywords that the players and you used in the preseason was a bulletproof mindset. Mm-hmm. Just curious, after the most recent set of results, do you think the team is adopting that? Do you think they still believe that they have that?
I still believe that they have that, but I also still believe it has to grow to a higher level than it is now. We've shown over the 7 games that we have phases in games that we have that mindset and we have that body language on the pitch and in the way we play. However, if you take the last 30 minutes in Atlanta, we're not bulletproof enough in order to deal with a situation like we had to deal with back then. And also the previous game shows that we are not always capable of showing the right mentality if it comes to being bulletproof, because otherwise you would not concede the goals that we did in the first 20 to 25 minutes in the previous game. So there's still a lot of room to grow in this area, and that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah, I think a big thing is not overreacting. If you look at each game individually, Atlanta, honestly, we played quite well in the beginning and then just made a bunch of stupid mistakes in the end. That cost us the game, and then going down 1-0 so early versus Minnesota is it never sets you up for a good game. But we have a tough challenge ahead with Philly, and we're just fully focused on that now.
Well, one of the things that's made you stand out this season and since last season is your versatility. You've played midfield, you've played 6, you've played center of defense, you've played actually left side, right side as far as defense is concerned. How does it affect you to be changing positions as often as you do? Mm-hmm. Do you embrace that, or would you prefer just to be in one position? Mm-hmm. And how do you approach all of this every game?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't really mind going in between positions. I feel quite comfortable in both areas or any area that they put me in, and I know that wherever I'm playing, the guys next to me are always gonna help me out, whether it's in the back with Thiago, Berger, Tano, or in the middle with Keaton, Johnny, Maxi. Everybody's always looking to help each other on this team. So, with that being said, it's been pretty easy for me to go in between positions.
And if I can just follow up on that, if you were your own coach and you could put yourself in one position and say, okay, this is where I want to play, and this is where you should play, where would you play?
I think my favorite position, and growing up, I always played the 6 role. So I feel like that's where I have the most experience in, but I can also see why a coach likes me to play center back. So
Thank you.
We're going to go with George on Zoom.
What's up, man? Briefly, last time Philly was in town last season, they left scoring a lot of goals. It was a very lopsided game. The way things have been going with you guys, how important is this game for you guys' morale and what could potentially be a catalyst for a nice run that you could go on after this?
Yeah, I think there's a very big game for many reasons. We already talked about the 2 past results, and I think that every time we play Philly, it's always a bit of a rivalry. We met a few times in the playoffs. I think in the past few years we've both been pretty good teams, and I think you usually get a good game when we play them. So this could be a good moment for us, and it's a really good opportunity to get some momentum going.
Alex?
Hi, Justin. This is Alex Winley from AM New York. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. This weekend is a chance to bounce back against a Philly side that likes to press. How are you and your teammates preparing to handle that pressure and maintain control of the midfield and the defensive lines? Thanks.
Yeah, we watched a little bit of video on them earlier today. We'll probably do some more tomorrow, and I think it was really just in training working against the really high press, because we know they're a very aggressive team with a new coach. It's a little bit similar to Red Bulls, how they want to play, make the game a little bit sloppy, second balls, and be really attacking. And to be fair, we've played them a few times already, so we know what to expect. I don't think there'll be any surprises on Saturday, but it will definitely be a difficult game.
We'll go with Scott.
Hey, Justin, how are you? Scott Church of Street Punk Soccer. In this case, obviously the match is at Citi Field this weekend. Do you have a preference as a player, Yankee Stadium, Citi Field, or as long as it's home, it doesn't matter? Thanks.
I like playing at Citi Field a little bit more than Yankee Stadium, but they're both pretty similar.
Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, Justin, it's Mike Anderson from Blue Stadium Radio. Thanks for the time. In the last 2 weeks, Coach has had 2 difficult situations to deal with. Obviously, after Atlanta, he addressed the media and talking about the situation between Thiago and Matt Freese at the end of that game. And then in the most recent game against Minnesota, he talked about making the early substitutions because he just wasn't pleased with the way the team was playing on the field. How are you responding to a coach who's making those decisions, maybe being more transparent than coaches have been in the past? How are you handling those situations?
Yeah, I think Pascal has shown since day one that he's not afraid to make difficult decisions or address things that are maybe a little bit difficult to talk about, and he stood by that throughout the year. Even after certain games where we have a few mistakes here, like late goal against LAFC, he's always ready to talk about it right away. He doesn't want to shy away from anything, and I think that'll only benefit the team because it'll help us improve. And it's still early in the season, but if we can learn from these moments going forward, I think it'll only help us.
Michael, you have another one? Nope. We'll go to George.
You have one of the up-and-coming talents, Kevin Sullivan, coming to town. I think he's coming up with the team. Can you speak a little bit about the young guys that you have on your team? You have a lot of guys who are playing great. I think Shore is super young, but he's playing amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you talk about just a little bit about the age that's changing in the MLS, maybe? You're a vet now, so you know a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think we're probably one of the teams that have a really good group of young guys that are training really hard every day. You see Johnny Shore a lot this season, but there's also guys like Maximore, Seymour, Drew, even Peter coming up sometimes from the second team that they're really pushing and they're really fighting. They're all super hungry to get on the first team and or not to get on the first team, but to play. You see some of them making their debut already, and I think Johnny could be a good example for all of them to keep following what the steps he's been taking. But just in terms of the MLS, I think it's really good that all these kids are getting this opportunity.